If you guys remember, one of the things that happened in 2016 after Trump won the presidency is there were a lot of very cringe liberal responses to that. There were many Democrats who pushed the argument that, look, I mean, are there some things we could do better? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact of the matter is, everybody who voted for Donald Trump is just racist. They're a bigot. They're irredeemable. And they're, it's really not about us or Hillary not running a good campaign or not having a compelling message or not being idealistic enough or laying out a policy platform. It's just that these Republicans are bad people. Full stop. So there was kind of like a raging debate on the Democratic side and more broadly on the left of like, okay, so to what extent do you blame like racism and bigotry for Trump's win versus to what extent do you blame, class and Trump's fake populism where he pretended like he was going to help some working people. That's a debate that rages on to this day. I mean, my answer has always been, it's both things. It's not, it's not mutually exclusive. It's a false dichotomy. It's not either or. Both of those things played a role. But of course, if, Democrats did run on an appealing message, they definitely would have beaten Donald Trump. Problem is Hillary was a terrible candidate and she wasn't inspiring and she wasn't pushing for any sort of social democratic system that would have addressed the concerns of many working class voters who ended up voting for Obama twice and flipping to Trump. But anyway, I digress from that point. You guys understand there was this dismissive attitude of like, if you didn't vote for us, you're just an idiot and you're irredeemable and you're useless and fuck you. That was a development that was very disturbing to me. Well, now we're seeing Republicans do their version of this after they got draxed in the midterms by Democrats. So here's Donald Trump Jr. And look what he tweeted. Congratulations, Pennsylvania. And you see this picture right here. So in other words, portraying like average working class Pennsylvania voters who supported Fetterman over Oz. Like, this is you. This is you right here. So this is, Trump Jr. is just dripping with elitism here. He's dripping with classism. And as I said, some more classist Republican elites shitting on working class Pennsylvanians for choosing the guy who wants to raise the minimum wage and do the PRO Act over the puppy murdering scam diet pill salesman. So in other words, zero introspection. It's not like, hey, maybe Oz was a shitty candidate and stood for nothing. Maybe he had, a terrible history which turned people off to him. Literally killing, 329 puppies in experiments. Being a carpetbagger who's actually from New Jersey but ran in Pennsylvania. Selling scam cures on daytime TV to grandmas and grandpas across the country. Like, hey, maybe there's a problem there. Maybe the fact that he only wants to do deregulation and cut taxes for the rich, maybe that's an issue. Maybe that's not a policy agenda that's inspiring to people. Whereas Fetterman, the regular guy who wants to raise wages, he's actually looking out for them. So this is one example, Donald Trump Jr. going full elitist. Another one that was floating around. Look at this. I grabbed this from a right-leaning account on Twitter that I saw unironically tweeted out. Average Pennsylvania voter. I really like this Fetterman guy. And this is what they're saying the average Pennsylvania voter looks like. So more shitting on working class voters. That's what this is. This is dripping with elitism and classism. Now, I've seen 8, 9, 10 different, memes with the same theme. Like, if you didn't vote for us, you're just a fucking idiot. You're dumb. You're stupid. As opposed to, hey, maybe we did X, Y, and Z wrong, and if we adjusted that, maybe we could win. There's none of that. No introspection going on the right. And there was a lack of it on the Democratic side after Trump won. Now you're seeing the mirror image, the exact same thing, just a slightly different version of it on the right. So Leland Vittert is a host on News Nation. News Nation gets, honestly, abysmal views. But I'm somewhat partial to Leland because he had a show on Fox News that would air on, I think it was Sundays. And he had me on a couple times. I don't know if you guys remember this when I debated. The whole idea behind the show is you have like a right-leaning radio host and a left-leaning radio host, and they like sort of duke it out over various issues. And he had me on a couple times. And believe it or not, he actually didn't ask dumb questions. As far as like a Fox News host goes, he's one of the smarter ones. He used to be on Fox. Now he's on News Nation. And so he's going to go after Tucker Carlson here for sort of jumping in with the same line of argument of like, what the fuck is wrong with Pennsylvania voters, as opposed to doing any introspection. Let's see what his argument is.
All right. Few things are more arrogant and frankly stupider than telling voters they're dumb. That's on point tonight. That might sound obvious. It is not to Republican elites. Tucker Carlson, for example, told blue-collar workers in Pennsylvania exactly that. You are stupid for electing John Fetterman to the United States Senate over Mehmet Oz. Never mind, Oz is a former TV doctor who actually lived in New Jersey.
John Fetterman became a U.S. Senator last night. Does anyone think John Fetterman was a quality candidate? Is that why he won? Because they had quality candidates on the left? Did the voters of Pennsylvania really want a brain-damaged candidate who's never had a real job? Did they think he was more impressive than the guy who spent his career doing heart transplants?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The issue Fetterman had after his stroke is he has trouble with audible processing. So that's why when he did interviews, he needed it to be sort of translated in front of him into text, and then he could read the text and react. And yeah, he's having some communication issues, but again, it's just because he had a stroke recently. Now, will he get better? Won't he get better? I don't know. But the bottom line is, this is still a guy who's going to vote for raising the minimum wage, passing the PRO Act, raising taxes on the wealthy. This is a guy who's looking out for working class voters way more than Dr. Oz. Now, he spins it as a guy who's been doing heart surgeries, as if like that's what defines Oz and not his, I don't even know, multi-decade long TV show. How long was he on it? At least 1 decade, right? And where he was selling scam cures to grandmas on daytime TV. But look how he loads it. And look at his contempt for working class voters in Pennsylvania.
Probably not.
Actually, they did. We as journalists report the facts. Telling people they're stupid and don't get it and don't know what's good for them is a lot like, I don't know, Barack Obama. Remember bitter people who cling to their guns and religion?
I actually don't even think that's a good comparison, because I think that he wasn't besmirching everybody who votes for the opposition. He was saying there is a contingent in America of bitter people who cling to their guns and their Bibles. And depending on what number you say, right? Like if he said 50% of the country is bitter and they cling to their guns and their Bibles, that's not true. And I would condemn that. But if he's just talking about like, a small contingent, I mean, that is factual, right? So I don't even think this is a good analogy.
Or Hillary Clinton. Half of Trump supporters are deplorables. There's a graphic that
Yeah, see, the Hillary one, people perceived it like she was saying all Trump supporters are irredeemable deplorables. And that I obviously think is 100% wrong. She narrowed it more than what people thought she said and said about half of his supporters are irredeemable deplorables, which I still think is wrong, but it's not crazy off, right? Like there is some number. What is it? 30%? I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. You can debate it in the comment section. But yeah, these are the people that I call the TFGs, the too far gones, where it doesn't matter what argument you make. It doesn't matter the data, the evidence you present. It doesn't matter how relatable and normal your candidate is. It's sort of like a fundamentalist religion. Like, this is what I do, this is how I act, this is the team I'm a part of. And so there are people like that. You could say Hillary slightly overstated that, fair. But the idea that it was, she was talking about all Trump voters, that's just factually not true. And the idea that she's way off saying 50, she's not way off. You can say she's a little on the high end there, but not way off. Anyway, but this contempt that you're seeing for Pennsylvania voters, yeah. The big issue is the total generalizations. The big issue is you're just idiots, you're just dumb, you're just, the problem is with you, there's nothing I can do that's better to fix it and to get more voters. And that is what Hillary went with. And on that front, she was obviously dead wrong.
Never thought you would see Hillary, Obama, and Tucker. They all have the same disdain for working class Americans. Ironically, they are actually all talking about the same folks. Western Pennsylvania rural whites. It's coal country. It's steel country. It is tough to earn a dollar there. They have, in a word, been left behind by both parties. And across the board, they voted for Fetterman by 3 or 5 points more than they voted for Joe Biden. In some places, take Erie County, for example, Northwest PA, They voted for Fetterman by a bigger percentage than they voted for Trump. That wasn't exactly true in, say, Venango County. The average income in Venango is $27,000 a year. It's 96.6% white. But still, Fetterman beat Biden's numbers there by 4 points. That's huge. What could possibly explain that? Let's take the time. Let's give the voters their due and actually try to figure out why they did this, rather than just call them stupid. They're not stupid. They're incredibly smart and intuitive. In a shocking turn of events, the voters in Venango County and much of western Pennsylvania believed a man wearing a hoodie cared about them more than a slick TV host.
This campaign has always been about fighting for everyone who's ever been knocked down that ever got back up.
Compare that to Oz, who posted an Instagram video trying to connect with voters and lamented the rising cost of groceries.
Thought I'd do some grocery shopping. I'm at Wegner's, and my wife wants some vegetables for Crudite, right? So,
yeah. Venango County is a beautiful place. The average income is $27,000 a year. That's the average. They often do not use the word crudite there. Who do you think relates more to the people in Venango County?
By the way, I literally did not know what crudite was. I had to ask Crystal. Crystal told me, but apparently she had to look it up too. She didn't know what it was either. Like, yeah, dude, you're not gonna relate. And he also mixed up two grocery store names. There's Wegmans is one place, and then there's I don't know the other one because I think it's just in the Pennsylvania area, or certainly not in New York or Virginia, where I usually am most of the time. So Regner's was the other one. I don't know. You guys tell me if you're from the region. So he mixed two together, so he got the name wrong, and then he also said crudite. Everything about that was just, it screamed elitist who is disconnected from the people. Just like when he was asked how many houses he had, he said legitimately 2, when the answer was actually 10. So these are all these little cues people picked up on. The cues of like, look, regular working class guy wearing a hoodie, just had a stroke, is fighting back from it, was knocked down, is trying to get back up, like he said, and he's going to look out for other people who were knocked down and are trying to get back up. That was the sense people had. And by the way, their policy platforms reflect that.
Who cares more about you? There are a lot of people in Venango County who feel knocked down. They've been getting knocked down there for years, for decades. Listen to Katie Tur from MSNBC talking about Fetterman's win.
Fetterman as a nominee at some point for president. I know there's some variables, obviously. Just a few. But I just, what he did in the super red, deep red parts of Pennsylvania and the way that he ran ahead of Biden, as you were saying, ran ahead of Trump. I mean, it just makes you wonder about his future.
Some variables is one way to put it. Unable to articulate basic policy positions is another. But
that's not true. He's not unable to articulate basic policy positions. In fact, that's one of the only things he can articulate right now, because the stroke has impacted his communication skills. But it's clear people think he cares about me, and also to the extent he says anything, it's like, let's raise wages. So people tend to like that.
Strictly political sense, that doesn't matter. She's right. What he did in the super red, deep red parts of Pennsylvania and the way he ran ahead of Biden, ran ahead of Trump, it just makes you wonder about his future. More importantly, it makes you wonder who those voters are going to vote for next. Here's Tucker articulating the general Republican consensus.
And not only did John Fetterman win, but he won without speaking a single coherent sentence for the entire campaign. Now, you may have been appalled by that.
That's obviously a massive overstatement.
But in some sense, it's an achievement. John Fetterman, in winning, shattered the thickest of all glass ceilings, which for centuries has prevented the unapologetically brain damaged from winning statewide election.
Sure.
Unapologetically brain damaged. He had a stroke, and he's having some communication issues. But in terms of the core, so his policy agenda, that's all still there. His policy agenda is there, and the fact that he cares about other people is there. Totally dismissive of all of that. Weird, Tucker's not doing a rant. So-called populist Tucker Carlson is not doing a rant saying, hey, maybe Dr. Oz should have went all in on $15 minimum wage to win. Maybe he should have went all in on the PRO Act and been pro-union. Maybe he should have done that in order to win. There's none of that. None of that analysis. It's fucking idiots didn't pick the scam artist who's been on TV.
It is mean and mean-spirited, but it's true. Fetterman has real issues, and the voters didn't care. That's the real issue. Why they didn't care.
Yeah, and you know what? This is something, we've talked about this quite a bit, right? Bernie had a heart attack and then went up in the polls in the 2020 race, in the primary. Sex scandals don't seem to land anymore. People don't really give a fuck about sex scandals. John Fetterman's stroke, people don't care. Biden, genuinely terrible at communicating and is clearly suffering from some issues related to old age. Voters didn't care. You know, in 2020, they said he's not Trump, so we like him more, so we're going to vote for him. So, yeah, these things, the electorate is, in a way, they are, I think, way more able to sort of weed out the noise and get to the heart of the matter. And more evidence of this is, you know, on the direct ballot initiatives, like I always say, about 80% of the time, the correct position ends up winning, and that's what happened in this race. In fact, it was probably more. There's probably like 90% of the direct ballot initiatives on the proper side ended up winning. Because when you give people a direct say on the issues, they're usually very reasonable. I have no problem with people who say, you know, the American electorate is kind of ignorant. Because it is true. People don't really know many historical facts, right? And so there's a little bit of a blind spot there. But ignorant is different than dumb. Ignorant is different than being an idiot. They're not dumb. They're not idiots. They're not fucking masochists who would knowingly vote for somebody who they know is going to fuck them. It's not going to happen. And in this instance, reason prevailed, because clearly Dr. Oz would fuck them.
More importantly, what Tucker just said should make Republicans wonder why they nominated a candidate who lost to someone so clearly flawed. Why did the voters of Pennsylvania pick a man who has trouble articulating basic thoughts over a telegenic heart doctor? It's simple. They believe Fetterman cared about them.
True. True, he did. So anyway, we can cut this one off here. You guys get the gist of it. Zero self-reflection, zero introspection from the right, and now they're just lashing out at voters, calling them dumb, calling them idiots. And look, the effect of that is, good luck in the next race, man. If you're not going to adjust course, if you're not going to change policy, if you're not going to genuinely have more relatable people running, good luck. Good luck. And of course, I don't mean that, because I don't wish them luck, but these very basic things they're not going to figure out. So in the same way I was yelling at the Hillary stands and telling them, like, it's not Russia, it's not Comey, it's not Jill Stein, it's not sexism, it's not everybody's just a bigot if they don't already like us, everybody's a racist. In the same way I said, get your fucking shit together, that's now what I'm saying to the right. But the fact of the matter is, baked into that right-wing approach is just a shitty policy agenda that doesn't look out for working class people. So in a sense, they have an even harder thing they have to do. Convince people that they're more relatable and they're looking out for them, even though they're objectively not doing it ever. So, but if you thought after 2016, oh, the right is, you know, more reasonable in reacting to losing an election and adjusting course, what do you think about that now? The son of a billionaire born with a silver spoon in his mouth is tweeting memes about how working class Pennsylvanians are fucking idiots because they didn't pick the scam diet pill salesman. Doesn't get any more rich than that. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.